The Iceman. Quiet, cool, calm. He excels in a competitive pressure cooker with minimal show of emotion. Terry Labonte, the boy racer who became champion, a quarter-midget prodigy whose dad guided him from the Texas bull rings to the big leagues of Winston Cup. And there, the Iceman made his mark, winner of the '84 championship. But racing success is a fleeting thing. Through the early '90s, Labonte was the forgotten man, winless, struggling. By 1996, though, he was back, and the nickname evolved. The Iceman became the Iron Man. His metallic gray cars commemorated a record achievement, 514 consecutive starts, more than Richard Petty. 18 years of uninterrupted performance in the most demanding sport of them all. The final chapter in the comeback story includes a gripping battle with his hot young teammate, courage in the face of his own adversity. And through it all, Labonte piled up points in characteristic style, calmly, quietly, and with relentless consistency. In the end, this soft-spoken veteran placed his mark on a most memorable Winston Cup campaign. 1996, the year the Iron Man took home the pot of gold. The story of Terry Labonte's '96 Winston Cup championship actually begins at the end of 1993. When Ricky Rudd left Rick Hendrick's Moldy Cars stable to form his own team, Hendrick made a surprise decision. He chose Labonte as Rudd's replacement, even though the Iceman hadn't won a race in 4 years.
Going down the list when I knew Ricky was leaving, Terry's name popped up. And it just so happened I was going to Winston, to North Wilkesboro, to the race. And Terry had running Billy Hagan's car with no sponsor, had just had a lap on the field. And I watched him, and I had been looking at his numbers, and I watched him save his time. That whole race, I watched Terry Labonte. And he got out of the car, and I thought Terry was older than he was. And we contacted him. He was really hungry for the ride, and it was so nice to see a guy that eager to get in the car. And boy, what a great day that was for us.
So when I had the opportunity to drive for Rick Hendrick, I knew that was a chance of a lifetime to go down there. I knew I could join a team that I could get back in cars and have a chance to win races, and have a chance to win the championship. And I really never dreamed it would all come true, but you know, it did.
No one was more pleased with the Hendrick-Labonte marriage than Terry's new crew chief, Gary Dehart. Years ago, Dehart ran a little business building race car parts.
First time I ever met Terry, I had no idea who he was. He just come carrying an aluminum radiator or an oil tank or something into my shop and wanted me to weld it for him. And that's all I've ever done was fabricate. So that's the first time I really ever met Terry. So we kind of struck it off right off the get-go, you know.
That relationship grew when Dehart went to work as a fabricator for Terry's old car owner, Billy Hagan. In other words, Gary helped build the cars with which Terry won his first championship back in '84. Hendrick Motorsports reunited the old friends. Backed by a powerhouse team, Labonte enjoyed instant success. His first year at the wheel of the 5-car, he won 3 races. His career was reborn.
I'll tell you what we did. We kind of picked our best tracks, the tracks that I felt like were some of my best tracks, the team's best tracks, and that's where we went and tested. We wanted to really try to turn in a good run, maybe try to turn that into a win. And we did that at Wilkesboro, I think like the 7th race into the year. And so it paid off for us. And that was exciting. I mean, that was fun to get back in victory lane and you know, run up front all day. And we beat all the guys that were winning races. It's like nobody fell out of the race. You know, we outran them, so it was really a good feeling.
In his second Hendrick season, Labonte was overshadowed by his young teammate, NASCAR's brightest star. Jeff Gordon claimed the Winston Cup, giving Rick Hendrick his first title after 11 years of trying. Labonte had a decent '95 season, 3 more wins and 6th in the points, and the stage was set for '96. Hendrick Motorsports had finally learned what it takes to be a championship team. Terry knew exactly what he needed to get back on top.
I tell you what, the thing that we really looked at is we knew we had a good team, a competitive team. We could go and we could run good, but we weren't consistent. You know, we could run good one week and win the race, and we could be terrible the next week. And so this year, we concentrated on the tracks that we weren't very good at. We went to some of those and tested, and really put a lot of effort into those places. And even in my mind, I went to Dover, Delaware, and I could not run Dover with the concrete. And I made up my mind, I'm either going to qualify good or I'm going to wreck. And we qualified good, and we ran good in the race, finished second in one of them, had a flat tire in the other one. But we did a lot of things differently at some of those places, and we worked a lot harder, I think, and just tried stuff when we got there and really worked hard every practice, and it paid off for us.
Primed for the title and racetrack ready, Texas Terry and the Kellogg's gang charged into the '96 season and fell flat on their faces. Terry led the most laps in the season-opening Daytona 500, only to fall victim to a freak misfortune. An airborne piece of plastic bag sucked into the intake killed the engine's power. Arguably the best car in the field finished 24th. At Rockingham a week later, Labonte again set the pace until the engine blew. He finished 34th. Forget those preseason expectations. Terry was 30th in the standings, the lowest point ranking of his entire career.
I couldn't believe it, you know, and Jeff Gordon, my teammate, was in worse shape than I was, you know, and here we are thinking we're on top of the world, and we go down there and neither one of us are, I'm 30th and I think he's 40th or something in points. And Rick Hendrick had a meeting and sat down and talked with everybody. He just kind of cheered everybody up and said, hey, you know, we're running good. I think Jeff and I were running first and second when we fell out of Rockingham, you know. And so he just kind of reassured everybody that don't worry about it, you know, and it wasn't anything that anybody was doing, just something that happened. And so we went on, and I think Jeff won the following week, and then we won a few weeks after that. So, you know, kind of got back on the right track.
You're just scratching your head thinking, what's wrong here? You know, we got to get more consistent. Something's wrong here. So we set out the rest of the season to finish the race, and we looked at it like if we qualify 10th and a quarter of the way into the race we're 5th, and we look at the cars in front of us and say these cars are better and we're only a 5th place car, then we concentrate on we focus ourselves on trying to finish that race 5th. You know, you just got to do what you can do. You know, if you said you're a 5th place car and you want to go out there and win the race, you might spin out and wreck. So we kind of looked at it a little conservative and tried to save the rest of the year. Kind of like had 2 bad races right off the start, and then we took the attitude like we're going to save the rest of the year, you know.
A change for the better began at Richmond. Terry sat on the pole. The team kicked off a string of 5 straight top 10 finishes. But a different story now kept the Iceman in the glare of the media spotlight. The Iron Man countdown had begun. With each passing race, Labonte moved closer to the Winston Cup record of 513 consecutive starts. Terry's first full Winston Cup campaign was way back in 1979. Through 18 seasons in a dangerous business, he never missed a race. Terry tended to downplay the significance of the mark, while the media talked about little else.
I think one thing that made it so big was there was really no stories going on in racing at the time except that one. And so it drew a lot of attention. And of course the fact that it was Richard Petty's record, and not many of his records ever get broken. And then the deal with Cal Ripken the year before when he broke Lou Gehrig's record. And got so much media attention on that, kind of the comparison between the two. So it really drew a lot of attention. And at times, it probably distracted a little bit from our team, but we just like really concentrated on not letting that bother us and try to go on and do our job.
Terry tied the mark at North Wilkesboro. Kellogg marked the occasion with an iron gray paint job. And the guy who set the record gave the new Iron Man his due.
Guess who just walked up the stairs? Have you said anything to Richard Petty about tying his record of 513? Ooh.
He said it was okay, but Dale Inman came over to try to break my arm the other day.
How about it, King? How does it feel to see that record tied after all these years?
Well, you know, I feel good about it. You know, like I told Terry, if nothing else, they know Richard Petty had a record. So, you know, somebody's breaking. I can't see anybody I'd rather see break it than Terry.
Richard Petty's got a lot of records, and this is not one of them that I was that you would wish you were breaking. I wish he had a couple more. I wish I could break.
You'd take 200 wins, wouldn't you?
That 200 wins would be pretty neat.
I'd get a little excited if he got close to 200. I might have Dale break his arm then.
Now that ESPN piece makes a key point. Labonte doesn't want to be remembered simply for showing up every week.
I said a year before that, I said, the thing that makes me feel good about it is I'm with a team that we can go there, and I feel like we have a chance to win the pole. I feel like we have a chance to win the race. So that made it mean a lot more than if we went there and we struggled and we're just somebody in the race. And sure enough, we went to Wilkesboro and we won the pole and the race. You know, I mean, Never Green would have done both, but we did it all in the same weekend.
Corner number 4, and Terry Labonte wins the first Union 400.
From Victory Lane at North Wilkesboro, Terry was off to Camden Yards for the ceremonial meeting of the Iron Men, a photo op born of old-fashioned, all-American dependability. And while Terry may downplay the consecutive start record, it certainly impresses his car owner, who sees it as evidence that his driver is tough enough to deal with trouble when it comes, and also smart enough to avoid it in the first place.
That's unbelievable. I think there are a lot of factors in that. You know, you look at, he's won a championship, and he's run up front, so he hadn't been just one of those careful guys that rides around. But he's one of the smartest racers I've ever seen.
Terry jumps down on the inside. They make contact at the rear. Bodine goes into the wall, and Terry gets it completely sideways, but yet saves it. That was unbelievable.
Terry knows exactly where he needs to be on the racetrack at all times. And I think if you talk to Jeff Gordon, Jeff will tell you he's learned a lot watching Terry Labonte. Terry knows how to win, and he knows how to be in position to win. He knows how to take care of his equipment, and he knows how to spot trouble. And I think that's number one. Number two, he is a tough cookie because he was in a lot of pain in Phoenix, and he drove with an awful lot of pain, and you know, he's just not one guy to complain.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Now hold on, Hendrick. Terry's ability to drive through the pain does reinforce his Iron Man reputation, but you're getting way ahead of the story here. There were a lot of races between the North Wilkesboro record and Phoenix in the fall, and Terry had a lot of catching up to do. For example, in the record-breaking 514th start at Martinsville, Virginia, he used up the brakes on a car otherwise good enough to win the race and settled for 24th position. With the Ironman hoopla behind them, though, Terry and his team went on a tear, reeled off another terrific run of consistency. In 8 races, he finished no lower than 7th. And within that string, driver and crew chief also revealed their sense of humor at the expense of Terry's father, Bob, and an unsuspecting pit reporter. It happened at Loudon, New Hampshire.
Well, it was kind of a joke there, really. A little bit of a joke there. We had a pretty good car in practice, and we'd ran the bush race up there, and I finished second in the bush race. And my dad called me on the radio, and he said, how's the car? And I'm running second or leading or something. I said, well, we got the wrong shocks on it. Boy, he just really got a little mad at me because he built the shocks, you know. And so Sunday in the Winston Cup race,
Sports announcer come up and said, why are we running so bad? And I made the comment. And I made the comment about this because of what Terry's father had said to me just a day or two earlier about they made the wrong shock decision, they made the wrong spring decision. Well, that's what I told the announcer, you know, or the guy that was interviewing me at that time. I said, we had the wrong springs on the car, the wrong shocks on the car, and just everything, brought the wrong car. And it's my fault. And he kind of scratches his head and he walks off.
He walks off, but just a few minutes later, thanks to an unusual sequence of pit stops and yellows, the 5 car was out front, and the reporter came back.
And he come over and said, you were leading the race a while ago, you was just about last. And he looked at me and said, was this all a plan? And I said, yeah, it was all a plan, you know. It was all luck.
Well, what title contender doesn't need a little luck, right? And rumor has it that Terry pays the pit reporters not to talk to his dad during the races. But hey, there's a much larger issue here. Labonte's 6th place Loudon finish gave him the Winston Cup point lead, 18 up on Dale Earnhardt. It was the first time in 11 years that Labonte had led the chase for the big prize. Was he overjoyed? Nah, we got the standard mid-season answer.
Well, it really, at that time of the season, it was good to be on top of the points. I'd much rather been leading the points than behind, but we still had a lot of races to go.
Yeah, sure enough, Pocono a week later produced a disappointing 16th place finish. And a week after that, for only the second time in the season, Terry failed to finish at all. He was just barely a victim of that now famous Talladega crash that hurt Dale Earnhardt.
Earnhardt in the 4-car went right across in front of my car, and I thought I had it missed. And the tire off Dale Earnhardt's car came back across the track, and I centered it right in the center of my car. And it got hung under the front of my car, and the front tires were off the ground. And so my first reaction was, I missed the wreck, oh good. And then it's like, something's wrong. I mean, I can't turn the car, and it won't stop. And I'm just standing on the brakes trying to get it to stop. And I'm going down across the apron to turn 1, and I thought, I'm gonna go straight up the track and hit the wall head on. And finally, I got it slowed down. When I went back up on the apron, the tire came out, and then I thought I was gonna turn over, because it came out the back of the car, and just rolled under the car. And the car went off in the infield, stuck in the mud.
Terry wasn't saying a whole lot, and he said he run over something. He didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how much damage it was. Well, what hurt us more than anything, he couldn't drive the car on back around. They had to bring the car back on the truck, so we lost a lot of laps. Fortunately, it was getting late in the day because of rain delays and whatnot. They were almost ready to call the race. And that situation we had to look at. We just have to get the car out there as quickly as possible.
But waiting for the wrecker was only half the problem. A pinched oil line was starving the engine with only a few laps left, and there wasn't time to fix it.
The race went back to green. We went out there and ran it and blew the engine up. We'd run, I think we made 2 or 3 laps and gained some positions.
And that's the key. In a championship battle, every position, every point is critical. Those 2 or 3 laps put the 5-car in front of those cars totaled in the wreck. Every one of those positions worth a few points. Meanwhile, teammate Gordon won at Talladega that day, took the trophy, took the money, and took the point lead. But you see, 96 was a year in which it was tough to stay on top. A week later, Brickyard 400, attention focused on the injured Earnhardt until early in the race, the hometown hero, the former winner Gordon, cut a tire and slammed the wall. 3rd place for Labonte put him back in the driver's seat.
That was one of the places that we were worried about. We really put a lot of effort into that place. We had not finished in the top 10 there before, so we wanted to have a good run.
Are there days like that when 3rd feels like winning?
That was a win to us, yeah. That was a win for us.
Indy launched the Kellogg's crew on yet another streak, 4 consecutive top 5s. But there was a problem. Gordon rebounded from his Indy crash as dramatically as he bounced off that Brickyard wall. No matter what Terry did, Jeff did more. When the 5-car ran 5th, 24 finished 3rd. When Labonte took 3rd, Gordon won. And then the Kellogg's team stumbled. Overheating at Darlington, Terry finished 26th, while Jeff won the race. In the space of a month, Gordon had chopped 130 points off Labonte's post-Indianapolis lead. And the 24 team took the lead a week later at Dover. Gordon scored his 8th win of the year, 3rd straight on that track, while Labonte cut 2 tires, lost 2 laps for each, and finished 21st. The trend was clear. So imagine what Terry was thinking a week later in the early laps at Martinsville.
Had a little 10-cent clip snap out of the back of the master cylinder, the clutch master cylinder, and the rod fell in the floorboard. When Terry come on the radio and said, well, you guys get ready for a good pit stop because we're going to need it. The clutch rod's laying in the floor.
4 tires for Terry Labonte, but more importantly, 1 crewman diving in the passenger side window. They had the clutch rod assembly ready for when Terry came in. They're going to have to push him off pit road. He's going to try and beat the pace car, but he probably won't make it.
Once we decided that we were going to try to fix it, little Andy, he's the smallest guy we got on the team.
You know, I'm really glad Andy Graves only weighs about 140 pounds.
You know, we pick him up, I pick him up, and we stuff him down in. You know, Terry gets back, he gets his legs out of the way, he gets the steering wheel off the car, and we stuff him down in the hole with a pair of vice grips, and we fix it. You know, it's just we didn't fix it, but we put a Band-Aid on it.
Terry sits in the car. They're trying to snap up the window. Now they're going to have to push the car away. Terry finds Robert Presley on his wing. Labonte rolls down pit road. This time he beats the pace car out. Wow.
From there, Labonte drove his heart out, finished second, a moral victory, except that the guy who beat him again was Jeff Gordon.
I cannot believe we ran as good as we did, had tough luck like we did, overcame that, made our lap back up, and still finished second to the guy that's leading the points, the guy that we're racing in the points here. Of all people, he won the race, you know, but that was the way it went.
That's the way it went. That's the way it had gone for weeks. This thing was shaking down to a teammate battle for the championship.
Once we got about halfway through the season, then we knew, you know, it's Earnhardt and Terry that we're going to have to race. And then late in the season, I mean, we knew that it was Terry, and you know, it's like, man, we'd have him on the run, say Martinsville. I mean, here we are, you know, going to win the race. Terry's having problems. The next thing I know, he's second, you know, and I'm racing him for the win. So those guys, that, you know, they did an excellent job. Terry never quits. The team never quits.
And Gordon, meanwhile, never seemed to quit winning. He did it again the following week at North Wilkesboro. It was his third straight and a remarkable 10th win of the year. The Kellogg's crew faced a hard reality. With 4 events left, Jeff had a 111-point lead. Something had to change.
Charlotte was at a kind of a pivot point for us because we felt like, well, if we do any better in points than what we are right now, we wanted to step our program up. So we stepped our program up.
I think we worked harder at Charlotte than probably we ever have, and really kind of hit on something on our chassis, and that thing was fast.
We said, throw the cards where they want to lay, you know. We'll go for what's out there, and that's what we did. We went after Charlotte, and we won it, ran good and won.
To Labonte the racer, the Charlotte win was big. To Labonte the aspiring champion, it was huge. Gordon hit the wall, finished 31st, blew a 111-point lead. And after the celebration and the press box interviews were over, Rick Hendrick gained an insight into Labonte the man. He gave his driver a ride back to his motorhome.
His mom, his dad, his wife, and his 2 kids were standing there, and they were kind of hugging each other and talking about, and we were, and I was watching that, and I thought, this is like a Friday, a Saturday night race back in Southside Virginia or South Boston, when the family's in the infield, and the guy just won the race, and he's standing there, you know. And I said, I told Linda, I said, this is something special. Look at them. I mean, they're a unit. They're a family. They're happy. They're together, and it's all of them kind of in their own quiet kind of way celebrating this thing. And you know, so that's what Terry Labonte's all about.
Well, Rick read that one just right. Scenes of racetrack togetherness have been part of Terry's life for as long as he can remember.
I grew up around it, you know, and my father was always involved in it, and he worked on it. A friend of his had a stock car, and he worked on it. So I was kind of always, he'd always like let me come out in the garage and had a hammer and knock the dents out of the car, you know, that they raced on Saturday night. And so
when you were how old?
Oh, I was little. I mean, I was 5 years old.
And it was a short hop from swinging that hammer to twisting a steering wheel. Terry's first racer was a quarter midget.
We went out there and watched them, the quarter midget. They had a quarter midget track. And he said, do you think you'd like to have one of these, maybe, and run it? And I looked and I said, yeah, I'd like to run that, but I wouldn't want to do it with all these people here. And so he looked at me kind of funny. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I want to come back when there's nobody here and drive it. And so he did. He had a friend that had one, you know, that we were out there with, and they went back out there during the week and they let me run it around the track where there was nobody there.
Well, that opened the door to a great racing career, but hey, racing wasn't the only thing the Labontes did together.
When Terry was 8, he wanted to play football. I supported him in football, you know, went to football practice, went to all the games, finally wound up coaching the team. Done that for about 5 years, and I never did try and point them in this way. Whatever they wanted to do was fine with me. I just kind of laid down some guidelines for them and be sure they didn't hit the fence on either side of the road.
We were lucky because I played football for a while, youth league football, and my parents were involved in that, and they supported us whatever we did, 100%. And Bobby was the same way. He played soccer. Well, Mom and Dad were there at the soccer field with him every game. So it's just, that was just the way our folks were. You know, whatever we did was fine with them, but they just wanted us to do it the best we could, and they would support us and do anything they possibly could to help us, and they always did that.
And today, as Labonte lives in the fast lane of Winston Cup, so many years, so many miles, so many races away from his Texas roots, the core of his life has not changed.
I don't consider my success as whether they win or lose. I consider my success as the attitudes they have and the way they bring up, the way they treat their wives and bring up their kids. You know, I consider that success. Winning the race is success. Bringing up your kids right is something else too.
Clearly, family is the foundation of Labonte life. Racing is the family calling. And late in 1996, the family cheered as Terry Labonte headed into a dramatic racing showdown. With only 3 events left, he and Gordon were neck and neck in an unprecedented teammate battle for the championship. The press engulfed the Hendrick Motorsports camp. The most frequently asked question, how would these two teams deal with each other? How much would they be willing to help each other?
The most help we get from those guys is we know Jeff Gordon's going to go to Charlotte. He's going to run good. That kind of sets our priority on what we need to go for. We need to go over there and run good also. So their ability to be good at what they do makes us have more incentive to want to go out and do better. So I say they help us a lot. They help us a lot on that aspect.
Round 1 of the 3-race shootout went to Labonte. He finished 3rd at Rockingham through Gordon's uninspired 12th. The Kellogg's crew appeared to have captured the momentum, but Phoenix, the next to last race, changed the picture dramatically. Just 10 minutes into Friday's first practice session, Terry's throttle hung wide open. The Kellogg Chevy slammed hard into the turn 3 wall. The car was a write-off. Worse yet, Labonte suffered a painful fracture in his left hand.
And I thought right then, I said, I don't believe this. I said, this is not good right now. I mean, this is like the worst thing that could happen right here running for the championship.
When I got to the racetrack and Terry was in the hospital, and you know, that look on your face of finding your child in an emergency room that's just been in a wreck. I know how it feels now, because he was slumped over and he looked up at me and he didn't say anything. He just looked back down, and boy, his hand was, you know, it was horrible looking, and he was in a lot of pain.
Just a lot of bad thoughts went through my mind. Wow, are we giving this championship away? You know, don't let this happen. You know, this can't happen. You know, and, I'm not a very religious person, but I am religious enough that I understand sometimes things are taken out of your hands and you got to ask for someone else to help you out. Well, I was asking that person to help me out.
Yeah, things looked grim, but this team stayed focused. The crew rolled out a top-flight backup car. The Hendrick Brain Trust, in town early for a team member's wedding, worked the phones, arranging the best possible medical help, and also started looking at options.
When we started talking about a backup driver, Terry said, I don't need a driver. And I said, well, you know, we ought to have somebody standing by. He said, I'll be okay. I mean, that was really tough, because he'd been up. We were up that night till like 12 o'clock. And then the next day he had to qualify, and we got a shot in his hand and went out and qualified. And you know, typical Terry Labonte, you know, he qualifies about 27th, and the car's off pace about 3 or 4 tenths. And he said, we're okay, you know. Okay.
Okay, indeed. Terry put on a brave face for his owner, but inside, he had some serious doubts.
If you would have told me, I'll give you 10th place right now and you just go home, I'd have took it and left, you know. But we went out there Sunday with our backup car and led the race, wound up finishing 3rd, and at one point we had a chance to win it. So, well, we turned that into what was almost a disaster, you know, into a weekend where we left there and we came out ahead of Gordon and actually increased our point lead.
The key to that performance was an injection of anesthetic that deadened the key nerve in Terry's broken hand. But here's the real measure of the man. While others stood in awe of what he had accomplished, Terry focused on the bad set of tires he got on the last pit stop. He felt they cost him the win.
Terry was hot. He said, we just got bad, we got a bad set of tires there at the end. We had that race won, And I was thinking, after all we've been through, destroying the car, thinking that you weren't going to be able to drive or even qualify the car, to come out and run third, and you still have your points still. I'm happy. I don't know about you, but that's the kind of fire that he's got, and he's got an intensity that nobody sees. But when he gets in the car, and when it comes down to having a go, you can see it there, and then you can see how disappointed he is if it doesn't go like he wants it to go.
It's frustrating because you don't have a chance to win every race, every week. And that was an opportunity we had to win, and we could win that race right there because our car was good enough, and that was taken away from us by something that we didn't have any control over, and that really makes you mad.
If you think Terry was disappointed, consider the frustration of his rival Gordon and his crew chief Ray Evernham. Jeff finished 5th. They fell 47 points behind.
It was kind of an inside joke around here. Ray brought up the comment that they didn't run good, I want to say this, but he told Jeff, he said, let a one-armed man in a backup car beat us today.
And so the stage was set for a dramatic series finale. The battleground, Atlanta Motor Speedway, one of Terry's favorite tracks. Dale Jarrett had an outside shot at the title, but even the Ford fans could see this fight was between the teammates.
My biggest fear going into the end of the year, we wanted to be first and second, but what I didn't want to happen was lose that chemistry we built in the organization, and I could see that if we weren't careful, that could come apart. So I was a basket case, So I had a meeting before Atlanta. I had all the crew chiefs and drivers and all the support people, both teams together, and I said, look, guys, there's a reason we're first and second. We work together. We got a lot of talent here. You guys have done a super job. Now, somebody's going to lose. Somebody's going to Atlanta, and somebody's going to win, and somebody's going to lose. All of the drivers got up. Jeff and Terry got up in that meeting, and the crew chief, and said, you need to loosen up and enjoy this thing. You worked hard for this. You need to enjoy it. We're fine. This is going to all work out.
In fact, all was not fine.
2 weeks from Phoenix, I felt like my hand was a lot better. I was showing everybody, you won't believe how good my hand is, until I made the first lap. And I knew I was in trouble.
When the pain returned, the team again called in the cavalry. A doctor flew in to administer the dreaded anesthetic, and Terry didn't get much practice, but his qualifying effort didn't seem to suffer. He put the car inside row 2. Younger brother Bobby, meanwhile, took the pole, enabling Terry to cut a 5-point deal over a Labonte family dinner on Saturday night.
So I told him when I left, I said, now look, I need to lead a lap. I'm starting right behind you. I said, so if we can take off there, I said, let me lead. He said, okay, I knew he would, And he said, yes, sir, no problem, and so sure enough, we took off there, and I was running right behind him, and he motioned me by, and so I led a few laps there and motioned him back by, because his car was running awful good.
Those bonus points were critical because of championship arithmetic. If Gordon won the race, Labonte needed 8th or better to clinch the crown. For Dehart and the crew, it would be a very long day.
You know how long the Dover race usually is? We always say it's really long. Well, the Atlanta race was about twice that long. I believe I walked 5 miles on top of that toolbox that day. The tread plates probably wore off where I wore it off, but it was the longest day I have ever gone through in my life.
That long battle never lacked for drama, thanks in part to Jeff Gordon.
I'll tell you, something broke in the rear. It's moving all over the place.
An inexplicably loose lug nut cost the Rainbow Warriors 2 laps, changing the championship landscape for a little while.
If he can't make up those 2 laps, he won't finish in the top 20. So that took a lot of pressure off us. So then he made those 2 laps up, and I thought, let's put the pressure back on us now, so we were just continued to stay up there in the top 5 most of the day.
Terry's race, meanwhile, was a microcosm of his season. Consistency was the key. Team stayed cool in the face of a potential crisis. Late in the race, it appeared Gordon had enough fuel to finish, and Labonte did not.
We were concerned about that. I was real concerned about that. I was like mad about it. I didn't say nothing, but I was like, I can't believe this. This can't be right. So they told me to conserve fuel.
Terry, every time you can, we need a little bit of help on fuel.
Well, that's kind of hard to do. I mean, you just can't conserve fuel and still run 180 miles an hour.
Hey, Terry, that last time we were running, the gas mileage was about the same when you were running normal, so.
Get four, so I wasn't doing very good saving fuel, huh?
Now, but it looks like if anybody makes it, it'll be 1 or 2, Terry, and they're gonna be really stretching it. But that looks like it'll be 2 of them at the most. Looks like now we're like 4 laps short.
You think we'll be up 4 laps short too?
That's what it looks like.
As so often happens, a late race caution solved that fuel problem and also created a final bit of drama. The 5 team took the time for a 4-tire stop, briefly falling out of the top 10. But running down cars that took only 2 tires, Terry easily worked his way back to a title-clinching 5th place finish.
Coming off turn 4. And I think that's when it hit me. It's like, man, I can make it from here. I knew I could make it from there, you know. And we crossed the line and we won it. We were the champions.
The checkered flag comes out, and Terry Labonte has become the 1996 NASCAR Winston Cup champion.
Terry, this is Schrader. Congratulations, man. Come on, champ. Yes, sir.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Good job. Awesome, champ. You guys did a hell of a job. Great year, man.
Of course, the championship was only half the Labonte success story in Atlanta. Brother Bobby claimed his first win of the year.
Thank goodness we've gone out as a winner here in Atlanta. We've did some good things this weekend, so that was great. And Terry won the championship. And like I said, that was the coolest thing I've ever done.
This was one of the most memorable victory celebrations in the history of the sport. A heartwarming family success story. The talented sons of Bob and Martha Labonte sharing their moment of victory. But by the time the victory parade began, the champion was again the master of understatement.
He climbs up on the float, you know, and we're standing up there and the champagne's going everywhere. And he looks at me, he said, you know, this is kind of neat, isn't it? And I said, yeah. But quite a guy. I mean, that victory lap with Bobby, special. And, you know, he is one special man, and he's touched a lot of people here and a lot of people in racing, and it's just really neat to see a guy that maybe everyone thought was over the hill or written off come back and really do what he did.
It was good for me just to see the whole Labonte family there, Bob and Martha, and just for them to sit back and see what they've done. You know, Terry, of course, we feel very fortunate that he can go out and win a championship. And when we hired him 3 years ago to do this job, we felt like he could do the job. And we've kind of all set out to kind of prove that point, and we did. Now we got to go and win another championship. And I don't know if I can wait 12 years, so we need to do it again really soon, like next year or the year after. How's that?
Locked up in Atlanta, the championship prize was delivered in New York. It's every racer's dream to sit at the head table at the Waldorf Astoria, to collect the huge Winston bonus, and to officially accept the Winston Cup. 1996. It was a memorable season. The Iron Man broke the record, then collected the gold. And looking back on that wonderful family moment of victory in Atlanta, the Iceman even showed a little emotion.
To win the championship and him win the race and then do the victory lap, that was awesome. I mean, that was really, really neat. I'll never forget that.
I can see it now. It's
still
emotional.
Oh God, I still get emotional when I think about it, because I don't know why. I just do. That just doesn't ever happen, you know. One brother wins the race, the other guy wins the championship, and you make the victory lap. It's pretty neat.